Welcome to the Big Ideas Show today with Kerry Ryan.
Hi.
Hello. Kerry is from Write Like a Girl, and we are going to be talking about holding creativity loosely, aren't we, in today's discussion?
Yeah.
So that's going to be coming up after these titles. Kerry.
Yes.
Welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. I've been hearing so many wonderful things about what you do, your writing courses, and been meaning to get onto one for ages. So it's wonderful to get you on the show and hear a little bit more about what you do and all the thought process.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to be talking, aren't we, about kind of this idea of holding creativity loosely, and because we do it in a lot of situations, we hold our ideas very, very tightly, and it makes them hard to come to life. And I imagine that must be particularly a challenge when it comes to writing, right, for a lot of people, a lot of things that your participants struggle with. But we're going to be coming on to that. We're going to go on to the Quickfire Questions first. Okay. You ready?
Yes.
So, our theme is self-expression and message, so you fit perfectly within that, so I'm going to hit you with these. Favourite colour?
Red.
3 core values?
Honesty, kindness, loving.
Nice. Favourite medium for self-expression or to share your message?
Oh, the written word.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
I read that and went, I know exactly what she said.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Favourite artist, designer or creator?
Well, right now it's Derek Jarman. I've just found his diaries so inspiring. I've just finished his diaries the other night and my head's just full of it. He's amazing. Read it.
Awesome. Okay. Best way to get your message across?
Oh, best way to get my message across? I think, word of mouth.
Yeah?
Yeah, word of mouth, the written word, sharing, being honest, authentic. That's how I get my message across.
Nice. Favourite piece of work you've personally created?
I think it's a novel I'm working on just now. Yeah, because it ties in with a lot of what we're going to be talking about, but it's definitely one that I've held a lot more loosely than other things I've written before, and it's paying off. So it's definitely this novel now.
Okay. Nice. What would your message in a bottle be?
Help. Or send cake.
I like that. Send cake. I love that one.
Yeah, okay.
Biggest challenge in self-expression?
Trusting the subconscious.
Okay. Favourite local artist?
Welk Boy. I love his paintings. I love his story. I love everything he does. It's great, fantastic, really moving pieces, and a brilliant artist.
And how do you spark self-expression?
I read, I go to galleries, I watch brilliant movies, I talk to people, I visit nice places, and I go to the sea in Folkestone.
Nice. Lots of sparks of expression.
Yes.
There. Really cool. Awesome. Okay, those are our quickfire questions done. Let's get back onto our discussion about holding creativity loosely, shall we? And I think maybe we should start off. I'm sure lots of people know about you, what you do, but for those who don't, can you give us a very brief overview of what you do at Write Like a Girl?
Okay, so Write Like a Girl is two 6-week courses. There's the first one, Ignite, and then there's the next step. Women only. I teach in London, I teach in Folkestone, I sometimes teach in Dublin and Brighton, and Write Like a Girl is taught all over the world now. Taught in America soon, in Russia, in Kazan, in St. Petersburg, in Moscow, and in the north of England and in Edinburgh. Wow. But what it is a 6-week course, as I said. It's about finding your voice, it's about creating a regular writing practice, it's about taking strength from community and encouraging each other. And so we focus on lots of skills like characterisation, dialogue, sense of place, but we also develop, as the 6 weeks go on in the first course, a regular writing practice. And it's based on what I learned doing my PhD, And so I started it in the Feminist Library about 4 years ago, and it's just really snowballed from there into this thing that's gone global beyond my expectations.
Wow.
And this whole amazing community of women has mushroomed from this, you know, when I first started teaching in a room that leaked and there was 3 people turned up, and, you know, I had no idea it would be this popular. So it's been amazing for me to do it.
Yeah. What do you think's been, I'm taking us off topic already, of our main question, but what do you think has been the thing that really is different or stands out or is special, unique for the participants that has meant, as you said, that word of mouth has kept growing and building?
I think it's, what the feedback I've got is that it's authentic, is that I'm not teaching from that I know everything. And that's what I start. One of the first things I say is I don't know everything and I'm not pretending to do. So I am not this tutor who's cracked it. I'm the same as everyone else. Some days I struggle with my creativity, some days are better, and we share that, and everyone shares that, and everyone's at different levels. So it's about, in terms of my teaching, I think it's that authenticity and being open about my struggles and what it really looks like to be a writer and what the truth is, rather than what we're told. There's this whole myth in society that the artist as this singular genius who goes away and writes a novel, and no novel is written by one person. So we talk a lot about that, about what it is to be creative and about the self-doubts we all have. So that's one of the things, but one of the other things is that the women support each other. And they meet up in groups and they go on writing retreats, and they've just made friendships for life. So that really helps support them. And it's been life-changing for a lot of women, which makes me so happy. Awesome. It's beyond my expectations, so it's amazing. And obviously the practical exercises are very good as well, etc.
Sounds like there's a lot more than just writing. It's all the emotional stuff and the baggage that we bring along with any creative process, but I guess particularly writing, because from my personal experience, it's one of those things that we assume we should be able to do because we've all been taught it at school, we do it every day, but we don't necessarily write authentically and write creatively in a way that we think in our head. Our perfectionist mind's got stuck up in our head, right? Yeah,
and we sit down at a blank page and we go, okay, create, and that's not how it works. And we're checking ourselves when we start to see whether we should have taken up knitting or crochet, and it's never going to happen for us. And the thing I say is everyone is rubbish. I say, your writing will be crap because it's crap for everyone. All you have to do is read the early short stories of brilliant authors, and they weren't brilliant to start with. You can see that there's sparks, but they developed over time because it's a skill like any other. Writing has this weird thing about it, creative writing has this weird thing around it that, if you can sing, you still need to be trained. If you can paint, you still need to be trained, whether you are inspired by other painters or look at their methods or go to college or whatever, but you need help. But with writing, there's this myth that you've just to sit down and give. And it will all come, and that's not how it works. You have to learn. It's a craft like any other. Talent is one thing, and then you have to develop your craft. That's how it works, but you need time. And when we start out, we're just like, you better be perfect or there's no point in doing this, and that's just not the way it works.
Definitely. There's a lot of perfectionism around stuff, isn't there? And I guess this feeds that, and this was the inspiration behind our headline theme of holding creativity loosely. So can you tell me a little bit about kind of where that has become an important idea for you, and then how you then apply that to the people you work with in the groups?
I think definitely all the things we're talking about I did. I started out, I was such a perfectionist, and I still am. I'm like a perfectionist in recovery, I think, and much better than I was, but I still have my moments. But definitely it was about it started about affirmation and about ego. I wanted my name on the cover of a book, and I wanted to be a published author. I wanted to be a writer. I didn't want to write. So I wanted to short circuit that and just get the novel published and have the accolades and everyone think I was amazing, and the people that I went to school with would at last see that I was, a worthwhile human. And that's not how it works. So I learned the hard way. Ego falls away. You keep doing it and you realise that's not it. Ego can't sustain you because it takes too long to learn your craft. The ego can't keep you going. And you don't, when you write to impress people, you don't write well. When you write from the heart, when you hold it loosely and trust your subconscious and write from the heart, not from the head. And usually when we're writing from the head, we're thinking about what other people will think of what we're doing. But if we do it for ourselves and we're present and enjoy the process of writing, then it just flows so much better and people connect with it more when it's authentic. So that took me a long time to learn. It took me ages to learn, and I don't know if that's normal or if I was longer or whatever, but it took me a long time. So Write Like a Girl was based on everything it's do as I say, don't do as I did. But the serious thing is, if I can help women or anyone shortcut that process to make it it is painful. I think that you always have pain when you're learning a new craft. You have to understand it's not always going to be giggles and that other stuff. There's going to be times when you want to beat your head off the desk, but that's all about breaking through and learning. And it's just that toddler thing of a toddler sees what they want to do and they can't do it and they have a tantrum. So that's what happens. But just don't. If I can stop women having so many tantrums and understanding that that's part of the process and they're not quite beating themselves up as I did, then that's amazing. So that I suffered, in inverted commas. I was hardly down the mines, but it was different. If that's
self kind of inflicted. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I've got to do it perfect.
It's got to be perfect, and it's got and doing it from that position of I want the round of applause rather than I want people to be moved emotionally. You've got to remind yourself that why you want to write. You want to write for the reasons that you read so much.
Okay.
That's why you want to write, because
that's interesting.
We were transformed by what we wrote, by what we read, when we were younger, and that magic and that connection and that feeling like you're not alone and there are other people like you, or even if it's set in Timbuktu or a blue alien planet, that here was an experience that could speak to you in some way. That's what we can do. It's magic. It's the only kind of magic there is. Amazing. So that's what you've got to write, that position, rather than I want people to think I'm wonderful, because that won't sustain you. It's got to be about connection and transforming and connecting, because when you're writing, you're in a relationship with the reader. So it's a relationship. So you've got to respect the reader and you've got to give them just enough to let their imaginations fire. But if you're writing from ego, you can't do that, because all you're looking for is people to think you're amazing, so it's hollow, and readers pick up in that. So if you want to be real, you have to write from the heart, and you have to hold it loosely. You don't do that gritty teeth, please. This has to be amazing, perfect. It's the thing I was saying about dare to be average. You have to dare to be average, because you'll actually produce more that way, and you can experiment more and you can learn more. But if you hold it tightly, like I did, it took me 1.5 years to write my first short story, and yes, it was really good, but in that time I could have learned so much more. So that's what I mean by holding it loosely. Experiment, play. And inner child gets a bad rap. It really does. Allowing yourself to play gets a bad rap, but it's really important when it comes to creativity. This isn't life or death, this is play. And by playing and allow yourself to experiment and being kind to yourself when it goes wrong, and I'll say that in inverted commas as well, because with writing, nothing is a failure. Everything leads to something else, and you're learning with every sentence you write. So you have to allow yourself to play and understand that it's not the end of the world. And the thing is, with perfectionism, people won't like it, what you do. Most people might not like it, but there'll be someone. Even if it's your mum.
And I guess, is it one of those things, the more specific and more true it is, rather than trying to write for everyone, like, yes, you may have a very small number of people that will like it, but those people, will be so moved because no one else has written anything that specific or that speaks to them that much.
Exactly. And you can, if you write from the heart, as I said, we just pick up on it, and you can. There's a funny thing, if you can read about someone who's living in Basingstoke in a suburban house and is removed from your day-to-day life, and you can connect with them because it's honest and it's authentic. So that's really important, to write from the heart and hold it loosely.
Are there any tips when someone's trying to find that authenticity? Because I think not only is it scary to be very honest, but sometimes we're not always clear what our authentic voice, persona, goal, pursuit is when we first start. Is there anything you found useful for finding that authenticity?
Well, I think it tallies in with the last question. Write for yourself, but not in an egotistical way.
Yeah.
Write for the person, you who loves to read.
Okay.
Yeah, because often we want to be writers because there won't be quite the book that will do it for us.
Okay.
Or there's almost the book, but we think, well, I could do this.
Yeah.
Or I could do something like this. Or we're inspired by something. So write for the reader in you who gets excited by books. And you know, and her taste is, you know, so she won't take, so you have to write for her, but it's not about her being critical, it's about writing what you love.
Yeah.
And not writing like a writer. This is very important.
Okay.
And that's where authenticity comes from. If you write in your own voice, people often worry about what is voice in my own voice. It's writing how you talk in here.
Yeah.
Often, and you don't always need to do that for the rest of your life, but definitely when you're starting out, you don't have to put on airs and graces. Just write as you speak.
Yeah.
There's a book that's been shortlisted for the Booker Prize by Sally Rooney recently, and she's 27 or something, and she said she wanted to write a book which was similar to the way she writes in emails with friends.
Okay.
And people love this book.
Yeah.
Because it resonates with them, because it's authentic.
Yeah.
She was a champion debater. She's from a working class background, but she was in a debating society and won all sorts of competitions. So she had confidence in her own voice because people had listened to her.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's why she was bold about saying, I'm going to write about this.
Okay.
So there's a boldness and there's a trust and there's the
Yeah.
faith that people will want to listen to you. You know, you go to the pub, you go out with friends, your friends want to listen to you. They want to hear what you've got to say if you've got good friends. And it's the same thing. You've just got to trust that people will want to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. So those are the tips, really.
Yeah.
Write is how you think in your head. That'll give you good practice. You can write as, you know, a 19th century bin man if you want to, but definitely when you're starting out, don't write as a writer.
Yeah.
And have faith that people will want to listen to what you've got to say because your friends will, and also, you know, just have faith that your subconscious will do the work for you. It will come.
And I guess, as you said, even if you write for yourself, if you're being authentic, you're also writing for yourself. So as long as you enjoy it.
Exactly, and there's that one, write for the reader inside you as well. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. That's really cool. And in terms of people, I know something that I've been looking to write more, but one of my, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, is time. Is having that concern about having the time to do it, putting the time aside, and to switch off all the other stuff that's going on. What would your advice be for someone who wants to do this, wants to take that time to start progressing, but is just tight on time?
Yeah, well, you don't need a lot of time. You know, that's a great misapprehension. You don't actually need a lot of time. If you write for 20 minutes a day, you'll have a draft of a novel within a year. So you don't need a lot of time.
Okay.
What you need to be doing is thinking, is feeding the subconscious.
Yeah.
So composting ideas, and that's just a case of reading like a writer, which means you don't read like a reader anymore, which, you know, will ruin books for you for the rest of your life. But
do you first read it like a reader and then read it like a writer?
Oh, it depends.
Or do you have to go straight in and read it like a writer?
It depends. You know, I don't write sci-fi, so I will read sci-fi as a reader.
Okay.
I'll just be like, oh, but anything else, I'm much slower, much more precise. I think it's not as tight as it sounds. You know, you what you do is you catch yourself enjoying a bit, and you think, how has this been done? And you go back and look at it. You analyse it, but you don't analyse it in the way we were taught at university and college. You just look at the tools that are being used, and that's obviously training you to write better.
Yeah.
So you read like a writer, and you fill, you know, you compost ideas, so you fill the subconscious. You watch movies, you read. You have to read. You talk to people, you take notes, so that when you're actually sitting down for this short period of time, you've got ideas. You're not scared of the blank page. You've already made notes and you can just go.
Yeah.
So you don't need a lot of time. So actually, if you're thinking, if only I had one less day at work, if only I had a big chunk of time off, that's just fear. That's just you setting up a barrier for yourself, because it's scary doing something you've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
But you actually don't need a lot of time.
And how much should people... Because I guess my only thing would be, right, okay, 20 minutes, but what am I going to write? I've got to spend that first few 20 minutes or working out what is the grander thing that I'm going to write about. What's the balance then, would you say, between planning and then using the next 20 minutes effectively versus just getting on with it?
It depends. Some days you just crack on because you kind of have an idea, but you have to have an idea.
Yeah.
But you don't... Spending a lot of time doing what I call pre-writing, that's filling the pot, is actually can become a form of procrastination. You know, and I love to research, so I can get lost in the British Library, and that's loads of fun for me, but I'm not actually writing.
Yeah.
So there's a balance.
Okay.
So what you want to do is start before you're absolutely sure of everything.
Okay.
Okay, so say, for example, you were writing a historical novel. You would have a vague idea of what people wear, of where they would, what their houses would be like, but you wouldn't know if they use zips or hook and eye.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know everything. You wouldn't have spent 6 months in the British Library, because what's more important than those details is people.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to think about people, character. Writing is character. You know, novels character, short story character. Character is the main thing you've got to think about. So, yes, a bit of planning, but start before you're absolutely sure.
Okay.
And then you do it in tandem. So actually, when you're doing your pre-writing, you're making notes about, when I sit down for about 20 minutes, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. But holding it loosely, you want to do X, Y, and Z, and it'll end up A, B, C, D, Z. So you've got to be okay with that, and be amazed by what your subconscious will take, and trust your subconscious. It will take you to places you didn't know. You'll be like, oh, that's coming, okay, well, this isn't... When writers talk, you know, it's quite an arsey thing that's always annoyed me. You know, my characters took over my novel, and, you know, that's not quite true. But what is true is if you've done the work, the pre-work, if you've researched a bit, not too much, and you know who you're writing about a bit, but not too much, then they surprise you. And you've got to be open to those surprises. So that's what I mean by holding your creativity loosely. Too much planning, for me, there are some people who love to plan, but there's specific kind of detective novels or, you know, really kind of...
When there's all these twists where it's got to be very carefully set up.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you want a middle ground. You know, there are some people who are called pantsers, who just fly by the seat of their pants.
Really?
But that's too much for me. Yeah, just... But even, I would argue, even those people have, you know, they've thought a bit about what they're doing. Yeah. I think.
So do they just do it for the adrenaline and the personal exploration?
Yeah, and just absolutely, they're absolutely fly by the seat of their pants, trusting their subconscious. Yeah. But for me, you need a wee bit of guidance, but just to kind of give yourself an idea and then trust where it flows.
Yeah, I guess especially when you're learning.
Exactly.
It's like you can't just go out and we can all naturally dance to a certain amount, but having the basics down is going to allow you to progress, isn't it, to the next stage?
Exactly, and plus you don't know how your audience, how your readers will react to it. You know, I wrote a short story last year and gave it to a critique group, and I thought it was really poignant, and they were all going to be crying in the aisles, and they were rolling in the aisles, they were laughing.
Really?
Not in a bad way, in a positive way, but I was like, oh, it's that kind of story then. So, you know, you just don't know.
Okay.
And it was published, and, you know, so it wasn't that it was a bad story, it just had a different kind of impact that I thought when I was listening to the Smiths and crying and knocking it out of my desk.
Really?
Well, I think it was just quite dark but funny.
Okay.
So you never know is the thing. So yeah.
And how much would you advise that if people are starting out and they are writing, how much they give it to friends and family to read, and at what stage?
Yeah, you have to be really careful with that, I think. I don't think you should, personally, but this is only me, this is the thing I should say, you know, we all look at advice and creative writing courses, and, you know, the thing about art is you can do it however you want to do it. You know, there are no rules, that's the beauty of it. There are guidelines, but you can do whatever you want. But for me, I think the first drafts shouldn't be shown because they're absolutely awful no matter who you are. Margaret Atwood's first drafts are like hideous, you know, everyone's. But I don't think you should show your first drafts to anyone. Second draft's different. That's a trusted friend, maybe. you've got to be careful with family because they will love everything you do or say something really critical and you'll be like blah blah blah. So choose wisely.
Okay.
And then third draft you'll show it to a bit more people, and then this is novel I'm thinking about, and then you can open it up. And the thing is, it's hard. Feedback is hard, but you'll always develop from it. And there'll be things you'll be like, how dare they, that's not true, and then you'll go away and think about it and you'll be like, actually yeah. At a point. Or you'll say no, never, and that's really good because that's strengthening your critical faculties as a writer.
Confidence in what it means for
exactly,
you.
and what your vision is, so that's fine as well. But you've got to be open to feedback. But I would be very careful about family for sure. Find someone who loves the books you like, loves the short stories you like, loves the kind of writing you like, and then that will be a good sounding board for you.
Okay, that's a good way to think about it.
And what you want is, that's the good thing about Write Like a Girl, is that you have a group of supportive, friendly, warm women who have been trained by me into how to critique, because the second course is all about feedback.
Okay.
So women bring in their short stories and they've shared them during the week and we feed back, but it's always constructive and supportive because they're brilliant women, and that's really useful to get used to that, because hey ho, you're writing for the public. But there is a funny thing about when you're writing, you kind of have to push that away and just, as we talked about earlier, write for the reader inside. Some writers have a favourite friend, a favourite reader, an auntie who loved books, or this is Hilary Mantel's one, or a best friend who loves the same kind of books, and they keep them in mind. But I've never really done that. I just write for me, but not in an egotistical sense.
Yeah, from what you'd enjoy, and therefore
exactly, as we talked about.
Like
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Kerry, it's been absolutely wonderful hearing all about it. And really interesting, both personally and I think it applies to any creative endeavour, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So, if people want to hear more about, or kind of find out more about what you do, where can they find the info? Okay,
it's writelikeagirl.com, and I should say I do Write Like a Girl for Book's Sake, which is a women's community interest charity. They promote women in literature, so I work in partnership with them, and you can book my courses on forbooksake.net, I think it is. We just have a Google for Book's Sake, and they've got loads of great information and brilliant articles about writing and how to write, and book reviews and all that stuff.
And it's worth saying Grrrl is spelled Grrrl.
Yes,
that's right. To find it online. And social handles?
Oh yeah, Write Like a Girl on Instagram, and Dr. Write Like a Girl on Twitter. Right. Yes.
Okay, there we go. Awesome. Kerry, it's been absolutely wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye. Bye.